I want to show you this yew tree that I have here, which is a very important tree for me, because its first modeling was done in the 80s, in the last century. I think it was in 84, 85, something like that. It's a tree that I studied 40,000 times when I was a teenager. This tree for me represents, now I'll tell you why it's so important. It is because it represents the revolution of Masahiko Kimura and his new techniques, those techniques that at that time seemed crazy, with those tools that they designed for him, with his chainsaws and all this, and his crazy works in deadwood, that inspired all of us Westerners so much. So, this is a tree that I saw in Kimura's book when I was a kid, and I looked at it and I was amazed. And suddenly, at some point in my life, about 5 or 7 years ago, I came across this tree in Japan, lost somewhere in a nursery whose name I don't want to remember. And well, I had the opportunity to buy it and bring it back to Spain. It was a tree that at that time had nothing to do with the original form that appears in Kimura's book. And well, after that, I bought the tree, I took it to Master Kimura. I gave him that kind of mushroom that was at that time and he reworked it. After that, I brought it to Spain. So, now, I am trying to develop it and bring it to what I understand is the image that Master Kimura wanted to transmit, of a very punished mountain tree, with those branches upwards, like the Kamasai pears do. And now what I want to show you that I don't want to miss is the book that I am talking about. I have the Japanese edition, and well, here it is. You can see that the starting material is mind-blowing bad. That is a real yew stake, a cylinder with cylindrical branches and hardly any usable green. Then, with his techniques and the chainsaw and so on, he created this design. This is the next step, with a minimal expression of green and all these deadwoods, as if from a trunk split by lightning and something more than split, because there is practically nothing left of the top. When I found it, years later, it was just that. Like a mushroom, all full of green. And this is the tree. And this little book, well, it's the Spanish edition, because I'm telling you, it might be easier to get this book than Kimura's, which is worth a fortune, and there are only a few of them. And well, it's exactly the same. It's even on the same page. And this is a book that you have to see and you have to have, because it's all full of before and after, and this same book is the one that I saw when I was 15 years old. And I studied every single detail. So that's why I feel so lucky to be able to have this tree at home, which is the icon of the Kimura chainsaw revolution. The truth is that working on a tree like, what would I say? As if you have dreamt all your life with Claudia Schiffer and, suddenly, one day she knocks on your door to tell you that she is in love with you without having met you. So, well, I've been that lucky. And not yet, Claudia Schiffer. But I'm not interested anymore either. I prefer shuffleboard. I'm going to do Mekiri on this yew tree that has grown freely since last season. It has last year's growth, has this year's growth. It is a little unbalanced in some areas, and I will be detailing how I do the job. Remember, this is a tree with an extremely dramatic look. Tree on a summit that was struck by lightning and at some point almost dead. That has been put back together from a couple of shoots over the years. I think, with that in mind, the masses should not be made too big either, and I would like them all to be well outlined underneath, and the branches pointing upwards a bit. I am going to give a chance to all these inner shoots that have lost strength compared to these others that have grown with much more vigor, and the technique is very simple, which is to remove the strongest shoots. In addition, I am not only going to remove this year's growth, but also part of last year's growth. First, we do a roughing up to get a better view of the area we are working on, and then we do the fine work. Right now there are about 30% of the shoots have a cut, they have been trimmed, and the rest are in place. That guarantees that in a few weeks they will be able to develop without any problems or sprout again. I'm going to have a look and see how it goes. A little bit of tweaking. Another thing I'm going to do is what I did on this branch. The downward facing leaves, taking care not to peel the bark. They are removed to make the branch more profiled, cleaner. If it is very hard, it is better to use the scissors. If we pull and we see that it offers a lot of resistance, or simply if we want to secure it, we pass the scissors and that's it. Of course, only with this, the change in the dough is wild. There it is, it's perfect. It would be possible to make a perfect cut like this from hedges, but well, I simply don't like it. And besides, for the health of the tree. In this case, it's not the best thing to do. I'm talking about trimming absolutely everything. Another thing I can do, and that is to promote a greater emission of rear buds, of adventitious buds, yes, in the inner part, where there are shoots with very old leaves, you see? That's where I can remove some of them, because this reduction in the volume of green is going to push the tree to create new buds. In other words, when you take away green from the tree, its tendency is to replenish it. And to replenish it, it needs new blocks. And that is what we play with to make them more compact. We remove green and it comes back, but in the areas that we are interested in, we are directing it. This cleaning of leaves that I am doing should not be too aggressive, because it could happen that the tree stops. That is to say that it has a weaker growth. Too weak. That is not desirable. You have to be careful because there are a lot of small shoots inside, those should be left untouched. Also, if you see that there is an axillary shoot that is growing in a bifurcation where there are already a couple of them, you have so that there is not too much competition and they can develop, and also so that they do not form balls of green that look very ugly. After this work, the tree has to go back into the shade. If it was in half shade, it is better to put it in full shade, because by cutting back so much, the inner leaves that were protected by the leaves of the tree itself were being exposed and could get burnt, and now we have the whole season the leaves are burnt. So a little bit of protection after this. If we dampen the canopy a little bit more often, so much the better. So where there have been cuts, there is no dehydration. I have the branches already shaped, and this stays a little bit outside. It's not really a problem, because expect shoots to come up from here, and this would be filled in, or I could cut further back. But also at this time of the Mekiri, it is a good occasion to make some corrections. Then it is easier to take a little piece of wire and carry the branch. And then we have it in place. Okay, so I make sure that I'm going to be able to use it better, because I won't have to cut it. The shoots will get there and it will be a much more defined branch. Take advantage of the Mekiri moment to use the wire for these corrections. This, by the way, is a wire cutter. It is the Masahiko scissors that we have on the web. Very important. Well, I'm moving on. I'll leave it here and go on with the pruning. Let's go to the Mekiri. This one had a very natural design of branches, very loose. I'm going to outline them a little underneath to see the line and see how far I can adjust them. In the end, in order to be able to trim, I have to lean on some lines, don't I? Because, of course, I'm doing. In other words, I need to have delimited, even if only mentally, the masses, to know where there is more and where there is less. I should have been there cleaning that part. Well, maybe there should be a little wire here. This wire is to bring it a little bit more towards the front and open up the branch because it's interested in. It's a little bit bunchy. This way I give space to each shoot. This part are central shoots, so there is no need. It is good that it goes upwards, they are that give volume to the mass. I don't want excessively flat doughs. Well, I don't want flat doughs. It's as easy as that. Now a little bit of profile underneath. And this process is repeated until we reach the apex. I am now finishing removing some of the old leaves, not many because it is very pruned, and with this the work will be finished. Another thing I didn't mention before is how sprouting occurs after this. Well, the tree sprouts in a more irregular way than the spring sprouting a little bit from here, a little bit from there. It goes by buds, doesn't it? And if those shoots get too long, we have to pinch them so that they continue to emit new shoots, so that the sprouting takes place little by little throughout the season. So with this is the end of the job. I hope that throughout the years you will be able to see the evolution of this tree.